Looks like that teaching degree is finally going to come in handy. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, a podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I am your host, Tom Grossi, and today I got my red pen. We're going to school, and I'm not talking about for AP European history. I'm talking about grading the Packers 2019 NFL Draft. But before we get into all the grading, I want to do a big shout out and thank you to all those patrons over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. We got a couple extra from last week after our entirety of the draft coverage. And big shout out and thank you to you. And if you would like to support me and also get some cool rewards, check out patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. Now, the way that we're gonna do this bad boy is we are just gonna do a quick snapshot of each day in the NFL draft for the Packers. I'll give a overall grade on the day. We'll go through the picks. And obviously, if you want a more in-depth breakdown of any of these picks, you can check out the channel in that there is a breakdown on every single player that the Green Bay Packers pick over the 3 days of the 2019 draft. So, without further ado, let's get to it. So, day one. Our number 12 pick with Montez Sweat, Jawan Taylor, and many others still on the board. The Green Bay Packers went with Rashawn Gary, the defensive end out of Michigan. And if you took a look at the video I posted weeks before the draft breaking him down, and also the video I posted the day of when we picked him, I was kind of meh about it. And now that I've sat on it a little bit longer, I've digested the pick a bit longer, I'm not meh. I'm meh. And that, I think, is a good explanation of how I feel about this pick. Now, obviously, he has not the greatest productivity in college, and looking at some tape, you can see why, in that he does get double-teamed a bunch, sometimes even triple-teamed. And so that could explain at least some of the low productivity, but you would think a guy of his size, he's 6'4", 277 pounds, ran a 4.58 at the combine, which was the fastest amongst D linemen. He is super duper athletic. You would think that there would at least be some more production. But LaFleur has previous experience with him, doing drills with him at Michigan. And the reason why I do like this pick and why I think it has a lot of potential is the guy is versatile in that he could play defensive end. He could also play outside linebacker. He was announced as a linebacker when he was drafted. Who knows, we could even potentially move him into the inside, which would solve that problem as well. And as you know, we have already gotten two pass rushers during the free agency into Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith. And so I think the upside with Rashawn Gary is very, very high. And I hope that the Packers coaching staff can kind of bring that potential out. So while I ding it a little bit because I think personally I liked Montez Sweat better as a pick, I don't know how he fell down so far, considering that the reports came out that his heart condition was misdiagnosed. But I think I'm okay with the pick. I'm okay with it. I'm not blown away, but I do see the potential that he brings to the Green Bay Packers and the potential misery that opposing offenses are going to face with our pass rushing core. Then at number 30, we traded down 9 spots by giving up both our 4th round picks to number 21 to the Seattle Seahawks to pick up Darnell Savage, the safety from Maryland. And I love this pick. Again, I thought it was a little bit too rich, but LaFleur came out and said, one, he thought he was the best safety within the draft. Also, they know for a fact that he was not going to be there at 30, so they traded down to get their guy. Now, what I love about him is, holy crap, man, this man is fast as hell. He ran a 4.36 40. This guy is a complete ball hawk. He has 8 interceptions over his collegiate career. 2 of them were returned for pick sixes. And so what I like about him is, and I said this in the breakdown video, he reminds me of a defender or was part of that secondary that would have played for the 2010 Super Bowl team, and that they were they were the bend don't break, but they caused so many turnovers, and I would love to see that happen again because if there's been kind of a staple that's been occurring over the past few years of the Packers defense, is that they haven't been creating turnovers. This guy, I think, could do it. He plays very, very well in off-man coverage. He's a day one starter. We could throw him at corner if we need it, but I don't think he's going to be playing corner, considering we do have a bit of depth at that position, even more so after the draft. But he's going to be a perfect addition with Adrian Amos over there, and Amos is more of the, I'm not going to pick off the ball, but I'm going to be super duper consistent. We have our ball hawk here, and those two in the backfield I think are going to be great. So with that, I give our day one picks an A-, and the reason why it's not a full-blown A is because I think there are coaches that they really are going to need to pull the potential out of Rashawn Gary. I like him. I think that he will do well on the Packers. And then the reasons why it's so high is because I love Darnell Savage. I think that's a great pick. Really makes that secondary dangerous, and that's something that we've needed for a very long time, and that has gone completely neglected for a long time. And so I'm pretty happy with what they were able to do day one. Now, moving on to day two with the number 44 pick, we picked up Elton Jenkins from Mississippi State, the O-lineman. I really like this pick. I have been preaching since before even the draft began, that the Packers needed to address offensive line. We needed to get some depth in there, and we also needed to upgrade a couple positions as well. So, first of all, he has great stats. In 2017, he allowed 0 sacks over 900 snaps, and then had over 800 snaps in 2018 and allowing only 1 sack and only had 1 penalty. He's versatile because he has experience playing left tackle, right tackle, guard, center, and I think this is what makes him so dangerous. We're obviously set at center with Corey Linsley, who's one of the most consistent and great players on that offensive line. But he provides a lot of talent, a lot of depth at the position, is probably going to replace Lane Taylor because that's much needed. Throw that in with Billy Turner, who we picked up during free agency, and also Cole Madison, who has returned. Maybe he could potentially be a starter, or at least could be a rotational guy in there as well. And our offensive line looks a lot better than it did in previous years. Obviously, we also have right tackle being a potential issue when Brian Bulaga's absent, and maybe Jenkins could even potentially fill in there if needed, because there ain't no way that our offensive line is staying healthy the entirety of 2019. Then with the number 75th pick, we went with Jay Sternberger, the tight end from Texas A&M. I actually mocked him to the Green Bay Packers in the 7th round mock, but I had him going a bit later, and I think the Packers pulled the trigger on him in the 3rd round because obviously they didn't have any 4th round picks because they traded them away to the Seahawks, and I'm okay with this pick. I think, again, he has potential. He has a lot of upside. He's not a great blocker, and he's not super fast. He was 11th in the 40-yard dash, but he is a natural receiver, just kind of a bigger receiver. He's productive in the passing game, had 10 touchdowns and 832 yards in 2018. He is essentially what I see as the potential future at that position, right? Because we have Jimmy Graham, who was super disappointing last year, and tight end was a position that I think we needed to address in this draft. And we also have Mercedes Lewis, who's our blocking guy, and then we have Rob Tonyan, who really didn't get much playing time at all. So I don't know if Sternberger's going to see a lot of playing time in 2019, or he's just going to be sitting behind Jimmy Graham, Mercedes Lewis, and kind of just learning from them. And then if we let Jimmy Graham go next year, depending on what he is able to do this season, if anything, then we'll work him in to being a potential starter. So I think he can be a starter. It's just I would love for him to pick up some lessons from Mercedes Lewis and kind of growing that blocking potential. And he has 2 guys that will benefit his learning curve. So overall, I give this day an A- as well, just because I love the Jenkins pick, and similar to the Gary pick, Sternberger has the upside. He has the potential. I think obviously the best tight end in this draft was TJ Hawkinson because he had that blocking ability, and he also was great in the passing game. Even Noah Fant, great in the passing game, but didn't know how to block. I see Sternberger very comparable to Noah Fant. Noah Fant obviously going number 20 in the 1st round to the Denver Broncos. And so if we look at it that way, I think that we got a somewhat steal in that if he's playing very similarly to Fant, I think the Packers are in good shape and we potentially have a future star at that position. Then going on to day 3, with our 150 pick, we got Kingsland Kiki, do you love me? the defensive lineman from Texas A&M. He had great production in the last 2 years as a starter when he became a starter in his junior year. He's fluid as a bigger guy, and overall, his pass rush has kind of improved over the years. He was already pretty damn good at stopping the run. I think right now he provides some great depth as a rotational player, and our defensive line is looking scarier and scarier. I don't know what this means for Muhammad Wilkerson. If we're going to give him another shot, I would think that we're not going to, but again, we needed to address this, and now we have potential multiple picks that could fill the hole that Mike Daniels might leave when he's not here next season if we don't renew his contract, which we most likely won't. But I think there's great value at this pick. Then with the 185th pick, we picked Kadar Holman for the cornerback from Toledo, who was a former walk-on. He's a press corner, had a great pro day, didn't do anything at the combine, ran a 4.39 40. And the reason why I like him, and again, it's providing competition and depth, is because we have some question marks at cornerback. Obviously, we have Jair Alexander, who stepped into that role very, very well last season, was really, really good in the beginning half of the season, kind of dropped off a little bit near the end. But the big question marks are Kevin King, who cannot stay upright, and Josh Jackson, who we drafted, obviously, in the second round last year. Josh Jackson had minimal experience coming into the NFL, and that showed a lot last year. And so we needed to, in my opinion, cornerback was up there because we have two guys who could potentially play the position. Now we have a third guy who can at least provide some depth and at the same time can also provide some competition in camp. And so depending on what happens with Kevin King this year, because when he's on the field, he's great, but if he continuously is injured, I don't see him remaining on the team, and so he might wind up being a backup for Josh Jackson. And so, again, I see value at the pick, and it's a position of potential need. And then we also had with the 194th pick, our second, sixth round pick, Dexter Williams, the running back for Notre Dame. I think this is phenomenal value for this guy who could have gone, I think, in the fourth round. But the thing that is a little bit of a knock on him, but also a positive, he doesn't have a lot of experience as a starter and became a workhorse in 2018. He had 158 attempts and nearly 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. Also had a touchdown and over 100 yards in the receiving game. But and again, here's the positives. There's not a lot of wear and tear on him, similar to a Josh Jackson. But at the same time, he never had over 39 carries in the previous 3 years. Now, I think what this is great for is providing, again, lots and lots of depth, which I've said a lot already in this video, and I think that's basically the theme. There's positions of need that we provided that depth at, and LaFleur's already said it's going to be a running back by committee, so now we have Jones, Williams, and Williams. So that's going to make it a triple threat, if you will, in that backfield. And then finally, with our last pick in the 7th round, the number 226 pick, we picked up Ty Summers. And he, again, I mentioned this in the breakdown video, he's trending the wrong way because he did better in the first half of his career, in that he had 121 tackles, for example, in 2016, and only had 110 tackles total in 2017 and 2018, so combined. He does have a history of injuries, but he also has played multiple different positions. He's gone on the inside, which could explain some of the loss of productivity. But at the same time, his nickname is also Captain America, so I'm going to also give him bonus points for that. Now, again, addressing it inside linebacker, I don't know what we're going to do with Rashawn Gary, so potentially if he's not moved onto the inside, if we don't move Zadarius Smith into the inside, I think that this is a kid you take a flyer on. If he does well, great. If not, he's a 7th round pick, and it is what it is. I think he's going to have a shot to make the team, considering we could always use better linebackers. We don't know what's going on with Oren Burks, and so overall, I'm pretty happy with this pick, and I would give this day 3 a B+. Now, overall, just some final notes about the Packers draft. I think a couple things that really stand out to me is we addressed everything we needed to address. Inside linebacker could have gone a little bit earlier, but there was only 2 really good inside linebackers in this draft, and we could potentially throw Rashawn Gary or Zadarius Smith in that role. I also see the message that is being sent by the Packers is, one, we're not going to have a defense anymore that's going to be run over. Ever since Aaron Rodgers has gotten into this league as a starter, our defense has been the weak point, except for the Super Bowl year. 2014 was a little bit better, but like 2011, when we went 15-1, it wasn't because of that defense at all. It was just because we couldn't stop breaking offensive records. So I have said now for months and months and months that this team needs to be more than Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like we're starting to move that way, in that we are creating a defense that is scary up front, in the backfield, and something that opponents should actually take seriously. Again, the one thing that stands out to me is from 2 seasons ago when we played the Panthers, and Cam Newton looks over the line and is like, oh, you've been watching tape. Okay, recognizing what the defense is calling, and then decides to be like, okay, I'm going to call an audible, and it throws it wide open to Christian McCaffrey for a touchdown. That's the kind of stuff that I don't want to see happening anymore. Obviously, Mike Pettin is having another year as our defensive coordinator. He's going to have a lot of new toys to play with, considering that 5 out of our 8 picks are on the defensive side of the ball. I think it also speaks volumes that we didn't draft a wide receiver because we're content with the weapons that we have. I know a lot of you were calling for that, but I just don't think it's necessary, right? We already have Equanimeous St. Brown. We have Scantling. We also have Kumaro. Hell, Trevor Davis is in there, but, he's more of a special teams guy. We have Geronimo Allison, and then, of course, Devontae Adams. So we have plenty of, we even have Jamon Moore, too. So we have plenty of weapons. While all of them might not pan out, we do already have depth at that position, and that, I think, is the theme of this draft. We provided depth at positions of need. And so now, the only real gap I can see is inside linebacker. There is still that slight question at cornerback, but those could be worked around by shifting guys around. Who knows? Josh Jackson could move to safety, and then we could put Darnell Savage at cornerback. We have no idea. But the fact is that now we have the opportunity and ability to move guys around because we have a lot of talent at a bunch of different positions in the defense. And I think this could be one of the most talented defenses that the Packers have put together since Aaron Rodgers became the starter. So I think that overall, this draft is super duper solid. I'm going to give it an A- because I think there are a lot of guys that we did draft them for their potential, right? And whether you are on that side of the fence or you need the past experience to really speak for itself in order to draft a guy, that's neither here nor there. I think there are guys that show a ton of upside, a ton of potential, and it's just up to the coaching staff to kind of get that out of all of these guys. But overall, if you're a Packers fan, I think you have to be super stoked with this, and that our defense will hopefully be for real now, and we'll already have the offensive weapons that we need to succeed. And we got the protection for Aaron Rodgers that we needed. We added another running back who was provided great value, and we provided a tight end who could be a future weapon for Aaron Rodgers. And so, all in all, I think that this team, they could do some damage in 2019. But I'm curious to see what you think down in the comments below, so let me know what you think. And I think this was a very, very good draft, and Goody, he done it again. But let me know what you think. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com, TOMGROSSI Comedy, at TomGrossiComedy, and all the social media you see down below. Check out Patcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and of course here on YouTube multiple times per week. We'll be up here 5 times a week this week. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack Go.